Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Roach Jeffrey, and subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. Now, the national championship game wrapped up last night, and the Georgia Bulldogs beat the TCU Horned Frogs 65-7. It was a total beatdown. Georgia showed their talent and their coaching, and TCU had absolutely no shot to win. Once they got down big, it was all over, and Georgia just imposed their will all over the Horned Frogs. And now the question is Georgia the new standard in college football? A lot of people are saying that Georgia is. Have they suddenly passed Alabama, and are they the best team in college football? I'm going to break it down. Now, again, what Georgia did last night was super impressive. We know that Georgia is recruiting out of their mind. They're in a dogfight with Alabama almost every year for the number one recruiting class. And Kirby Smart, he is bringing the talent in, and he is also developing that talent because Georgia's getting a lot of players in the NFL right now, and they are playing fantastic football. And again, for the national championship game last night, TCU had no shot to win because the talent gap was so large. And once Georgia put their mind to it and used that talent to win, then Georgia just imposed their will. You look at Georgia, they almost lost to Missouri earlier in the season because Georgia had a bad game. But Kirby Smart had Georgia playing at a high level last night where they were not going to lose to TCU. They struggled against Ohio State. Yes, Ohio State's a much more talented team, but Georgia did not play their best game in the semifinals against Ohio State, but against TCU, Georgia was in peak performance. They beat down the Horned Frogs, and now Georgia, in a lot of people's minds, could be the standard in college football. And you look at Kirby Smart's record as a head coach since he became the coach of Georgia in 2016. He started out in his first season going 8-5 and 4-4 in the SEC, and they won the Liberty Bowl. And that was in his first season taking over as the head coach of Georgia after Mark Richt got fired. And again, Georgia was not the program that they are right now, and he took him to an 8-5 record. But already in his second season at Georgia in 2017, he led him to a 13-2 record and a 7-1 record in the SEC, and they won the Rose Bowl, and they lost in the college football playoff national championship game to Alabama. And that season already almost put Georgia on the map, and they were one play away from winning that game, and Kirby Smart would have 3 national titles. But in 2018, they went 11-3 and 7-1 in the conference, and they lost in the Sugar Bowls. They took a slight step back. And then in 2019, they went 12-2 and 7-1 in the SEC, and then they won the Sugar Bowl that time. And then in 2020, they went 8-2 and 7-2 in the SEC, and they won the Peach Bowl. And a lot of people were starting to question Kirby Smart. Was he the right guy to lead Georgia because he wasn't getting them national championship wins? They weren't even getting to the playoff most of the time. And a lot of people just kept thinking about that 2017 national championship loss to Alabama. And a lot of people were upset. But in the last 2 seasons, Georgia has gone 14-1 and 8-0. And they won the Orange Bowl, and then they won the college football playoff national championship game against Alabama. And then this past season in 2022, Georgia went 15-0, 8-0. They went undefeated, and they won the Peach Bowl. Then they won the college football national championship game against the TCU Horned Frogs. Georgia has won back-to-back national titles. They're the first team to do it since Alabama did it with Nick Saban in 2011, 2012. And now, again, this begs the question, has Kirby Smart gotten Georgia to the point where they are now the new standard, the new dynasty in college football, and that they're the best team in all the land right now? And if you really think about it, there are only 3 programs that can even make the claim to be the best program in college football right now besides Georgia. One's Ohio State. And Ohio State, the last time they won a national championship was in 2014 under Urban Meyer in the first year of the college football playoff, and they have not won it since. And Ryan Day, this is his record as a head coach at Ohio State. Yes, they've gone 3-0 and 1-0 in his first season as taking over at the interim basically in 2018. And then in 2019, he led Ohio State to a 13-1 and 9-0 record, and they lost in the Fiesta Bowl. And then in 2020, they went 7-1 and 5-0, and they won the Sugar Bowl, and they lost in the college football playoff national championship game to Alabama. And then in 2021, Ohio State went 11-2 and 8-1, and they won the Rose Bowl. And then in 2022, they went 11-2 and 8-1, and they lost in the Peach Bowl to Georgia. And you look at Ohio State, Ryan Day's done a really good job as the head coach of Ohio State, and they are recruiting at a top 5 level most years. But Ohio State is not the best team in college football right now because they haven't won a title in almost 10 years, and they have not really had a lot of success in the college football playoff outside of the 2014 national championship win and a couple other wins here and there. So Ohio State's a great program, but they're not the standard in college football at this time. The next program that you can make a claim to be the standard of college football and the best program is Clemson. And you look at Dabo Swinney's record, he has a lot more history with the Clemson Tigers. And he started out his tenure at Clemson. It was a little rocky because Clemson was not a very good program before he got there. In '08, he was 4-3 and 3-2 in his first season taking over at Clemson. And it was a rough period to start out. But then in '09, they went 9-5. And then in 2010, they went 6-7. And then in 2011, they went 10-4. And now Clemson started to assert their dominance. In 2012, they went 11-2. In 2013, they went 11-2. 2014, they went 10-3. And after the 2014 season, Clemson rose to even higher heights than they were before. And Dabo Swinney's led Clemson to the playoffs many years in a row. From 2015 to 2020, you can almost make a claim that Clemson was the standard in college football. The only program that they were competing with at that time was Alabama. Alabama and Clemson were in a dogfight almost every year. They were playing each other in the playoff. From 2015 to 2020, the season with the most losses for Clemson was 2 in 2017 and 2020, and they won 2 national titles in 2016 and 2018, and Dabo Swinney had a great run in those 6 seasons. But the last 2 years, they've taken a step back. In 2021, they went 10-3 and 6-2 and won the Cheez-It Bowl. In 2022, they went 11-3, 8-0 and lost in the Orange Bowl. And Clemson's kind of slipped a little bit. They're still a top program, probably a top 3 program the way Dabo Swinney's built them up, and they won 2 national titles in the last 7 years. But Clemson has taken a small step back from where they were from 2015 to 2020. And Dabo Swinney's going to have to build Clemson back up to make the playoff again and maybe win more national titles for Clemson to be the standard in college football. And the biggest argument for being the standard in college football between Georgia and any other team is Alabama. And you look at Nick Saban. As a head coach, he won 1 national title with LSU in 2003. And then when he became the Alabama head coach in 2007, they really struggled and they went 2-6 under his watch. They did make a bowl game and they won the Independence Bowl. But then after that, literally from 2008 on, Nick Saban started to dominate as the Crimson Tide head coach. And in 2008, they went 12-2. And in 2009, they went 14-0. That was their first undefeated season. And they won the national championship game. That was his first at Alabama. And then in 2010, they went 10-3, took a small step back. But then in 2011 and 2012, the last repeat champion before Georgia just did it 2021, 2022, Nick Saban won 2 championships in a row in 2011 and 2012. And then in 2013, they went 11-2. And in 2014, they went 12-2. And then they won the national championship game again in 2015. Then in 2016, they lost in the national championship game to Clemson. And then in 2017, Alabama won the national championship again over Georgia. And then in 2018, they lost in the national championship game and they went 14-1. So from 2015 to 2018, Nick Saban only lost 1 game every year. And they won 2 national titles and they lost 2 national titles. Then in 2019, Alabama went 11-2, and they won the Citrus Bowl. Then in 2020, Alabama made the college football national championship game again, and they won and had another undefeated season going 13-0. And then Alabama went 13-2, and they lost in the college football national championship game to Georgia, which was Kirby Smart's first national championship. And then in 2022, Alabama missed the college football playoff and went 11-2, and they won the Sugar Bowl. So Nick Saban's won 6 national titles at Alabama, and that is tough to beat. He's won 1 more at LSU, so he's got 7 overall, but just for a program, he's won 6 at Alabama. That is so tough to crack. Kirby Smart, he's already won 2, and that's amazing. And he has an undefeated season going 15-0. But Alabama does have 2 undefeated seasons themselves, and they also had 2 national championships back-to-back, and they've won 3 national titles in the last 7 years. So I would say that Alabama still has the case for being the standard in college football. Plus, if you look at 2023 recruiting rankings, Alabama still has the #1 class in college football, followed right behind by Georgia. So both of them are battling it out right now to be the best team in college football. And Ohio State's at number 6 in the 2023 recruiting rankings, and Clemson's at number 10. But again, Alabama and Georgia have the #1 and #2 class, so clearly they're the 2 best teams in college football right now. But who is the standard in college football? Is it Georgia or is it Alabama? If you're going by right now, January 10th, 2023, then Georgia is the new standard in college football. They've won the last 2 national titles, and they've been very dominating the last 2 years, and they just won a national title 65-7 over the TCU Horned Frogs. So if you're going off of right now, Georgia is the standard in college football. But if you're going over the last 2 decades, Alabama is still the standard in college football because of what Nick Saban's done over that period of time, winning 6 national titles and having Alabama at the top of college football consistently year in and year out, Whereas Georgia, we have less to go off of with Kirby Smart. Now, if you're going to project forward, there's a really good chance that Kirby Smart can win many more national titles and maybe even catch up with Nick Saban eventually. Or even if he doesn't catch him, Nick Saban won't be coaching forever and Kirby Smart will be. And so he'll probably be the figurehead of college football like Nick Saban is right now. But again, Alabama's been the standard for the last 15 years. Nick Saban's done a fantastic job at the Alabama Crimson Tide. He even has them having the #1 recruiting class over Georgia in 2023. So if you're going off of that, Alabama's still the standard in college football for the long period of time that they've been. But I will say, if you're going off of right now, January 10th, 2023, the Georgia Bulldogs are the standard in college football at this very moment. But it's going to be very interesting to see if Georgia can continue their dominance and keep winning national titles and be the best team in college football, or if old Alabama, who's been so good for 15 years and who has been the standard in college football, will be able to rise back up and reclaim the national championship next year or in the near future and be able to take it back from Georgia. But I would say both teams are fantastic. They are the two best programs in college football. But Georgia has asserted themselves for now as the best team in college football. But Alabama could easily take it back because they've been the most dominant team in college football for the last 15 years. But congratulations to Georgia for beating TCU. They played fantastic football, and Georgia definitely deserves the claim to be the best college football program at this very moment. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below whether you think Georgia or Alabama is the standard and whether you're looking at it from the last 15 years in Alabama or at this very moment in Georgia. And I will see you next time.